Hello guys, and welcome to the second episode of the 12 games of Switchmas, and today I will be talking about Mario Strikers Battle League. And while this game is the second weakest game I played this year since it's the second game that I'm mentioning, I still thought it was fairly fun. Like, looking at the core gameplay was great. Like, it definitely felt like a successor to Charged, and a worthy successor to Charged in that aspect specifically. Like, the team tackles, hyper strikes, and the gear was really cool. Like, the gear, I really like the customization there. Like, even though it was lacking at launch, like, the fact that you can customize your character and kind of have your own profile like that online is pretty cool. I kind of like that, and I feel like another positive aspect about this game is that it kind of felt creative, and it kind of felt a lot different than the other Mario spin-offs on Switch. I mean, I guess that kind of goes for the whole Mario Strikers series in general, but I still think Charged had some, like, creative energy there. It wasn't the same gritty energy as the original game in Charged, but it was going for a more futuristic theming. So, like, while Charged was kind of like post-apocalyptic, um, Battle League is more like futuristic, kind of, and has like a more space theming to it, which I think is pretty cool. And like with the newest stadium that they added, it kind of has some Super Mario Galaxy theming to it, and I think it's nice overall. But this game definitely has a lot of issues and a lot of problems that can't be ignored and definitely bring down this game a lot. Like, even though I think it's fun, there's barely anything to do here. Like, the only reason I have so much playtime in this game is because I was grinding for the clubs, and I do like the club system here, but it definitely doesn't fix the problem that this game has. Like, at launch, there were only 5 stadiums with no variation other than the aesthetics, and that's kind of unacceptable for a Mario sports game. Like, I know you could technically, like, change the different themes and everything, have, like, one side, like, you could, basically, one of the gimmicks of this game is having, like, each part of the stadium switch theming, and that is cool, but I wish they would have done more with that. Like, just having 5 stadiums there is just really, really disappointing. Like, I feel like, at the bare minimum, there should have been 10 with like some variations between them. Like, I'm not sure if they would have done gimmicks again or not. Like, I feel like gimmicks, like having like stage hazards and different things, I know that was fairly unpopular and charged, but having like something else at least to make each of these stadiums original, like kind of having like a resistance to the grass, like to affect like running or the ball or different things, like that would have been interesting to see. And maybe even they could have included like stage hazards as like a thing you could toggle on or off, kind of like Smash. But yeah, pretty disappointing stage selection. Like, even though I like the themes, like I think the Bowser's Castle one and the Luigi's Mansion themes look pretty cool, and the ones after launch too look pretty cool. Like the kind of the space theme that kind of reminds me of Mario Galaxy a little bit. The themes are pretty cool, but it's just pretty disappointing that there are barely any of them with very little variation, like in terms of gameplay and everything. And the character selection as well. Like, there were only 10 characters at launch, which is pretty mind-boggling to see that for a Mario sports game. I thought like 12, 16 characters was pretty low for like a starting roster of a Mario sports game during the Switch era, in terms of like standards during the Switch era, but 10, wow, it almost seems like with Nintendo, it's like, how low can you go with like these rosters? Like, Mario Kart 9 is gonna have like 5 characters at launch or something like that, but yeah, all jokes aside, it's just pretty disappointing. I wish they would launch these games with more, like, a big problem with these games is that they're unfinished. I know that word is pretty controversial, but I feel like we shouldn't really sugarcoat how these games are launching with very little content. I feel like just calling it incomplete or writing it off as a non-issue is kind of sugarcoating it or making it seem it's not as big of a problem as it actually is. So I think it's significantly bringing these games down. Like, Nintendo Switch Sports, I mean, that game has other problems, but the fact that that game barely had, like, also barely had anything to do in terms of content, only had, like, a few different sports, basically cut in half from Wii Sports Resort. That was a major problem. And I think with Mario Strikers Battle League, it's even more disappointing in the case of this game, since this game had a ton of potential. Like, the gameplay is great and everything. It has a really cool online system through the clubs and everything. I really like what they did with this game. I wish they would have launched it with more. And even post-launch here, when they're adding, like, more stuff and everything, it still feels kind of barren. Like, 2 updates in, like, I guess 4 characters. The characters, that's fine now. I guess it doesn't feel as lacking now in terms of, like, characters and everything. But with the stadiums, it still feels pretty lackluster, considering the fact that they don't really have much variation between them. But there's also a lack of them in general. Like, I wouldn't mind the lack of variation as much if there were, like 15 stadiums in the game. But there's barely any, and that's just pretty disappointing overall. But yeah, with Mario Strikers Battle League, I don't think it's a bad game. I actually think it's a fun game overall. Like, I did enjoy playing this game online and with friends and everything. I still think it was a fairly fun game overall. But it just is definitely brought down by the lack of content and the fact that they launched this game unfinished. But yeah, anyways, thank you guys for watching this video. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe for more, and make sure to check out my Discord server and Twitter if you want to. Goodbye.